Hello friends. Putting is almost a separate game from the rest of golf. And until you've experimented yourself and found a way that works for you, here are some basics that you can start with. And the first thing is, of course, how you hold the club. Now, putting grips are usually flat-fronted. They used to be quite wide, actually, but they outlawed that. But they do have some sort of flat front. And that's generally where your thumbs go. So adopt a grip where both hands are on the club in the normal fashion, left above right, thumbs on the top. And one departure is from your normal grip is that the left hand is not turned to the right in a position that encourages the club to turn. In fact, both sets of fingers will have the fingernails visible to you. So that's the very basic grip. Now, there are modifications. One is that the forefinger of the left hand will actually wrap around the outside of the fingers of the right hand, an overlap, reverse overlapping grip, as they call it. Now, what I think that accomplishes is it actually broadens the grip, just as I mentioned with the outlawed flat front. And so the benefit of that is if it's broader, then any turn of the club, which is generally unhelpful in putting, is going to be more detectable and so therefore more easily avoided. Then a great champion, Craig Stadler, used to extend the right forefinger, and that was not at all uncommon. And then nowadays you see a good number of people adopting a reverse grip where the left hand is below the right. That tends to lower the left shoulder and make it less likely for the wrists to twitch. Again, a problem if your club is being turned as a consequence. And so the only remaining one, which I'm not very familiar with, is what they call a claw, where the right hand is actually turned upside down and attached in this fashion. Clearly it works. So there are some basics about how to hold the club. The next thing we do is adopt a posture that works. And here's how I encourage newcomers to the game to do it. Once you've got the grip, I would suggest standing erect and dangling the club by your legs, quite lightly. And then using only your arms, not your shoulders, pull the club up to about waist high. Now then what you do is you tip over and crouch until the club is on the ground. And at that point you've got a posture that works. And until you experiment and find something better, start off with that one. The stroke in putting is preceded by a very subtle movement. And if you watch champions, most of them do it. And I've asked, most of them don't know they're doing it and certainly don't know why. What might that be? After they've read the green and aimed the club, then what they do is put the club by the ball, adopt their posture and their grip, and then just before they swing, they lightly tap the ground. It should be so subtle that barely anyone sees it. But I think the benefit is that it takes charge of the club. It's quite possible that when you put the club by the ball and you're aiming it, you've actually switched off some important muscles. So lightly, imperceptibly tapping the ground just before you swing obliges those muscles to switch back on. Plus it lets you know where the ground is. It's generally a bad idea to hit the grass when you're putting. And so that little preliminary gets you ready. And then the next thing is how you form the stroke. It's a rocking of the shoulders. And we want to do it without moving the head or knees. So I recommend that you tap the ground, tap, tap, tick, tock, where the backstroke is twice as big as the follow through, and hold the follow through at the end. So it's tap, tap, tick, tock, hold it. And check, and you can put your shadow in front of you or just look at your legs. Your job is to not move your head or knees. And if your shadow is right above you, you'll be able to see whether or not you're doing that. So tap, tap, tick, tock, hold it. The ball position is generally going to be underneath the eyes. There are relatively few champions who have the ball farther away from them than that, although that is the more common of the variants. Virtually nobody with the ball closer to their feet than the vertical drop from their eyes. And so quite often it's been recommended over the years that you adopt your posture and grip, hold the ball in front of your eyes and drop it and try to spot where it landed and use that as your starting bid until you come up with something that's better.